In previous chapter, we learned about various caching directives. In this chapter, I will show you how to use those directives and how to implement caching. To do that, I have created a new project by name caching, and I have also copied the codes from our existing project response codes. So now in this project, in the caching project, I have all the 5 packages, and I have this student register class. As you know that we have already implemented this get student details, update student details, etc. So I will extend the code from here. Now to use caching directive and to implement caching in your program, you will have to use the cache control class. Cache control, create an object of it, new cache control. And as you can see, if you type cc dot cache control dot, these are various methods which make use of cache directives, and you can set and get values of these cache directives. So for example, get max age will give you the value of max age directive. Simply there is no cache directives, no cache, no store, so all these methods are part of cache control class. So what I will do here, I will set the value of max age. So let's say set max age, and I will set the value as 300. So whatever value you set here is in seconds. So what it's going to say is that whatever response you are giving to client, this response is valid for 300 seconds, which means 5 minutes. So if someone is calling this function again from the client side, then, and if it is within 5 minutes, then client may give you the value from the cache itself instead of going to the server. Similarly, I will set one more value just to show you how it looks like in the header of the response. Let's say set no transform. Okay, I will set this value as false, and then you need to make sure that all these cache control headers are part of your response. So for that, your response builder class has a method rb.cache control. This method, in this method, you will pass this cache control object as parameter. So this will ensure that your response is having these values. Now let's build and deploy this project. So my project is deployed. Now let me call this service. So I got the response, and if you see the headers, you see this cache control directive coming here, and it's saying that max age is 300. Now you don't see anything related to no transform because we set the value as false. If you make it true and then build it again, now call this service, you can see that no transform directive is also here, which means that no transform is true, which means that you cannot transform the content to any other format. So this is how you can set cache control directives and send it in the response. So now that you have this cache control directive which is saying that max age is 300 seconds, the expectation is that if I change something in the backend and then I call this service again within 300 seconds, then that change should not get reflected in the response, because ideally this should take the value from the cache. Now, as I explained earlier, whether cache control is used by the client or not is really a decision of client. The client that we are using, advanced REST client, actually ignores this cache control directive. Now, but I can still show you its impact using Chrome browser. So let me go to Chrome browser, and call this service simply by typing the URL which I was using in advanced REST client. And as you can see that here is the XML response. Now what I will do, I have 5 minutes, so I will go to this student register and I will make some change. So for roll number 2, as you can see, the response was roll number 2 Tom 13. What I will do, I will change this age to 15 and save it. Now if I open another tab and give the same URL again, you see that it's still returning the value 13 instead of 15. And the reason is that within 5 minutes it's taking the value from the cache, and it's not going, and the request is not going to server. So let's wait for 5 minutes and see how the response changes. Now I waited for more than 5 minutes. I will copy paste the same URL to another tab, and this time as you can see that you got the updated age, because this time the request was processed by server. Now why I am insisting to open new tab every time, because this is the only scenario when your Chrome browser respects the cache control header. If you use the same tab again and again, every time it will send the request to server, so you will not be able to see the impact of cache control. This is one big reason why web service providers want to use proxy servers for cache control instead of depending on client. Because if you just want to depend on client, then you are at the mercy of client software how it wants to handle cache control. However, here we don't have a proxy server, so you can use Chrome browser and open a new tab every time to experience how cache control impacts the response. So in this chapter, you learn how to use cache control class to set caching related values, and then how to set cache control instance in your response.